and we have now exposed the deeper muscles of the thoracic wall. Most of those are actually your extrinsic muscles of the forelimb. Okay? Extrinsic muscles of the forelimb. So we have trapezius, both cervical as well as thoracic portion. This is supposed to go here. Okay. So we have your brachiocephalicus, omotransversalis, some part of that is cut. Okay. Trapezius muscle, cervical portion of the trapezius right from here goes to the spine. Thoracic portion of the trapezius from thoracolumbar fascia goes to the spine. Okay. So this is thoracic portion, this is cervical portion. Once we remove all these things here, you're going to see the serratus ventralis, splenius muscle. After reflecting the trapezius, you're going to see the rhomboideus, rhomboideus cervicis, rhomboideus thoracis. Okay, so that's rhomboideus muscle here, rhomboideus muscle here. Then after reflecting the trapezius, we also see the latissimus dorsi coming from the lesser tubercle of the humerus and then inserting on the thoracolumbar fascia. Okay, not lesser tubercle, but the teres tuberosity of the teres major as well as your cutaneous trunca, and these muscles that would come from that. Okay, from the humerus, from the teres tuberosity, and then it would move further into the thoracolumbar fascia. We also reflect that one, and we expose some other muscles of the thoracic wall. What about these muscles here and these muscles here? Serratus dorsalis. So that is your serratus dorsalis cranialis. Some part of that is still present below the scapula, and remaining part is present outside or which is visible. What about this one, this one, this one, this one, and one more behind that? Caudalis. Okay, so this is serratus dorsalis cranialis, serratus dorsalis caudalis, and we have the epiaxial muscle systems here. So we have transversospinalis, then we have longissimus, and we have iliocostalis. But in this dissection, iliocostalis is still covered by the serratus dorsalis muscle. Okay, so we cannot really see the iliocostalis system in this dissection unless we remove the forelimb as well as we reflect the serratus muscle or serratus dorsalis muscles. We won't be able to see the iliocostalis system. Okay, so that is still hidden, or that is still not exposed in this dissection. What about this one? That's your latissimus dorsi. Okay, that is the thoracic portion of the latissimus dorsi. It fans out and it completely goes around here right from cervical vertebrae up to the 9th or 10th rib. Okay, so that's all your serratus ventralis. What is something specific about the serratus ventralis of the horse? What is the relation between serratus ventralis and some sort of fascia which is present in the shoulder region? Okay, what kind of fascia is present there, or what kind of ligament is present there?
Yellow.
Okay, yellow abdominal tunic would be the deep fascia of the external abdominal oblique muscle. Here we have that dorsoscapular ligament. Okay, and we have laminae from the dorsoscapular ligament going into the serratus ventralis muscle, making that muscle more fibrous in nature as compared to the other animals. Okay, so that is part of the concussion absorption system of the forelimb. Okay, we'll see that later when we really look at the limb. We can see the laminae or superficial layer of the dorsoscapular ligament would be visible more clearly. Okay, so after looking at those things, let's look at some of the ligaments or some of the some parts of the ligamentum nuchae and all the things here. What about this ligament? Right from sacrum all the way to the spinous process of the T3. What do you call that structure here?
Never mind.
Okay.
No, I don't think
So that would be your
not saying
supraspinous ligament. That would be your supraspinous ligament, and the same supraspinous ligament, as it continues further in the neck, you call it ligamentum nuchae or nuchal ligament. But specifically, that would become funicular part of the ligamentum nuchae, and from funicular part you have the laminar part of the ligamentum nuchae. Okay, so basically these two ligaments are not different, but here it becomes even wider. Here it splits into two, having two parts. Okay, because ligamentum nuchae is paired.
What is the dorsoscapular ligament under that?
Okay, dorsoscapular ligament is really made up of like different
Right.
fascicles between the muscles.
Okay.
So it would be between your rhomboideus and these rhomboideus and deeper muscles.
Okay.
So it would be obviously below that, and it also extends from the from the supraspinous ligament.
Okay.
Okay. So usually it just fascia, as they go between the muscles, they form the deep layer, middle layer, and superficial layer of the dorsoscapular ligament. Okay. Okay. So the important feature that we see here, after reflecting the trapezius, this is the spine of the scapula, and as we go exactly on the dorsal aspect of the spine, I'm going to find some sort of bursa located here. What do you call that bursa? That bursa would be supraspinous bursa. Okay. Some organisms are associated that particular site, like Brucella abortus or something. Okay. So those would infect those things like this bursa more commonly. I don't know, that condition is no more like very prevalent, because it is most of the time like being taken care. But once upon a time it was like very severe condition affecting the horses all over the place. Okay, so usually that condition was called fistulous withers. You get infection of the supraspinous bursa, and as it is deep structured, it would remain unattended for a long time, and then you get some sort of natural fistula which occurs on both sides, because any closed cavity, when you have any abscess or anything, it finds out the closest possible place to open out to the exterior, so it's going to form fistulae on both sides, either on one side or from both sides, and you continuously get exudate running over the shoulder, so it's called fistulous withers. Okay, then other bursae which are associated with the nuchal ligament, those are cranial nuchal bursa, caudal nuchal bursa. Okay. But those are more to the funicular part of the ligamentum nuchae. Okay, so what about this muscle here? What muscle is that? Splenius. Okay, so that is splenius muscle. Serratus ventralis, subclavius, rhomboideus cervicis, rhomboideus thoracis, latissimus dorsi, serratus ventralis again. Okay, this is still part of the trapezius muscle, and then as we go deep to this, then we're going to find semispinalis capitis, and if I go deep to the semispinalis capitis, then I'm going to find the laminar part of the ligamentum nuchae. Okay, so the laminar part is really much deeper, but here we can also see like your dorsal branch of the accessory nerve, it runs this way, goes to the trapezius muscle. So when you perform your intramuscular injections, you can really use that bulk cranial to the subclavius muscle. That bulk of the serratus ventralis is one which is really useful. But we should not really come more ventrally, because we have your transverse processes of the cervical vertebrae right here. So not very low, not very high. Very high, you're going to go close to the ligamentum nuchae, laminar part. You may damage the accessory nerve or dorsal branch of the accessory nerve. So usually palpate the subclavius, and slightly cranial to the subclavius would be the good place for intramuscular injections. Again, when it comes to palpation, in the horse, most of the things would be easily palpable as compared to the donkey, because of this thickness of the skin. Okay? Some of those areas could be even seen very easily, like when you compress when you press the caudal part of the jugular groove, the jugular vein in the horse, it swells up and becomes very clearly visible. But in the donkey, you would not find it. You just have this using your imagination where the groove would be present, and then you go deep. The same way as we perform injections into the horse, but slightly deeper, so we can access the external jugular vein. Okay. Okay, so let's move to the